Okay, everybody, we're back with the Mormon News Roundup. I'm your humble host, D-Base. That's talent on loan from Kolob. Really looking forward to today's episode 165, June 8th, 2025. Got a big episode that is on tap for you. Here is our agenda. Delighted to have you on board. Russia hates BYU. Say it isn't so. I can't believe what I'm reading. But yes, we're going to bring you this story. Syracuse Temple dedication. This is bringing a lot of news headlines for many reasons. We'll tell you why. Gay Pride Month in the Beehive State versus Latter-day Saints. Well, they do things a little differently over there. We're going to tell you what they say about Gay Pride Month. We're going to bring you a couple of updates about the secret lives of Mormon wives. What are those scandalous gals up to this time? It's going to blow your fetch mind. And also, the Latter-day Saints are going after the Amish. Yeah, I couldn't believe that one either. So we'll bring you that. And finally, Lori Vallow, the Doomsday Mom and Latter-day Saint, I believe she's been excommunicated, goes off on the judge in her murder trial. This is what we're going to bring you today. Let's kick things right off here with BYU being added to Russia's undesirable organizations list. Hashtag BYU. Say it isn't so. And here's a quick clip here from the Daily Universe, which is BYU's own official newspaper. I can't believe that Russia is giving BYU such a black eye. Let's check out what's going on here.
BYU student, you just got one more reason to not go to Russia. Brigham Young University is the newest addition to Russia's list of foreign and international organizations whose activities are recognized as undesirable on the territory of the Russian Federation.
BYU undesirable? Say it isn't so.
The undesirable law was signed by Vladimir Putin in 2015 and has since added 229 organizations onto their list. The law states that organizations are considered undesirable in Russia if their activities pose a threat to the foundations of the constitutional order, defense, or security of the state.
BYU poses a threat to the Federation of Russia? I can't believe what I'm hearing.
The law prohibits such organizations from conducting any financial transactions, disseminating information materials, including in the media or in the internet, establishing legal entities, and implementing programs. The law gives prosecutors power to shut down any work that undesirable organizations are doing in Russia.
See, I really think that is the real mindset behind here, is that Russia doesn't have a very good view of Latter-day Saint missionaries in particular. And because the BYU, of course, is a church-owned institution, it's going to receive some of that wrath. Russia doesn't like Mormon missionaries, as do so many other countries who find Mormon missionaries to be undesirable.
Any Russian individuals who cooperate with the organizations are subject to a potential fine or even a prison sentence if the organizations fail to shut down their work inside of Russia. Critics of the law feel the law was deliberately made vague so authorities could ban any organization they deem not in line with Kremlin policy.
Yeah, and Vladimir Putin is a brutal dictator, a genocidal maniac, so he's crafted things to consolidate power to himself. BYU is probably part of that.
No explanation has been provided as to why BYU was deemed undesirable. The list includes many political foundations, human rights groups, and media organizations. Examples include the National Endowment for Democracy, Free Russia Foundation, the Evangelical Christian Church in the Republic of Latvia, American Councils for International Education, the Moscow Times, and even the Elton John AIDS Foundation.
Man.
Let us know in the comments how you feel about BYU making the list.
Then what is the smile on? Why does she have such a smug grin on her face about her school? This is a BYU staff member or a student, and she's got a big smug smile on her face about how BYU is now added to Russia's undesirable organizations list. That is a sad day for me in particular, since I have a couple of degrees from BYU and I worked full or part-time for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 24 years, and now BYU has been blacklisted by Russia. Why? BYU continues to, it continues to fall in the global standings. It was a little surprising to me that BYU ended up on this list. First of all, because BYU is so aggressive against against homosexual students, and so is Russia. So I thought that they would find solidarity there. But it's really, I think the whole thing really comes down to the idea of external organizations who are proselytizing for what could be considered an anti-communist, not communist, but an anti-Russia message in Russia. I think that's what it's all about, is basically trying to show the front door to the Mormon missionaries in Russia. I think that's what that's is mostly all about. Rebecca Biblioteca over there at the Mormonish podcast also reacts here to a bunch of German NGOs and others who are being added as undesirable. Let's see what's going on.
This headline: Russia blacklists Brigham Young University. Apparently, this is sort of a breaking story. They have put Brigham Young University, the LDS Church's flagship university, on a undesirable list. And if anybody has dealings with Brigham Young University, there can be criminal charges. You could get in some serious trouble. I'm not exactly sure what all this means, but it doesn't seem to bode well for the Moscow Temple that was announced years ago. I can't even remember how many years. And, you know, nothing's happened with that. It's kind of like the China Temple. Where is that? It's even been taken off the list of temples that are going to be built. So anyway, back to Russia. I think this is fascinating. There are other organizations that are listed as undesirable, but newly on the list, Brigham Young University with criminal charges. If anybody has any dealings with them, let me know what you think in the comments.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yes, that's a good point here. The Russia Temple, which has been announced now, I believe, for over 5 years, looks less and less likely to be constructed anytime soon. So much for the inspiration behind that particular prophetic building. I don't think that's going to happen if BYU and the Mormon Church, and by extension, is on the undesirable list for Russia. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. Now, the president of the church, Russell Nelson, is going to be dedicating the Syracuse, Utah Temple today, folks, Sunday, June 8th, 2025. He will be accompanied by Elder Cook of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. The dedication will take place, actually just did a couple of hours ago here, will be rebroadcast to meeting houses. So it's news whenever Russell decides to dedicate a temple, and he only dedicates temples basically in the state of Utah, with one exception. He did dedicate the Washington, D.C. temple, which is in my neck of the woods. But the church news is going to give us their take on this. And, you know, if I was interested in Mormon news and I only had 5 minutes to get the entire weekly news, I would follow the church's official account here on their Instagram and also on their YouTube page, because they release these little shorts every single day, and they give you a pretty decent idea about what is happening in the Mormon Empire. Of course, it is filtered, and of course, it is propaganda, but still, let's hear what the church says about Russell Nelson dedicating the Syracuse, Utah Temple, which Syracuse, by the way, is about an hour north of Salt Lake City, give or take.
In church news today, this Tuesday, June 3rd, the church has announced that President Russell M. Nelson will dedicate the Syracuse, Utah Temple on Sunday, June 8th. The dedicatory session will take place at 4 p.m. This will be Utah's 24th House of the Lord.
That sure is a heck of a lot of temples, folks. You can't swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting a giant Masonic esoteric castle.
Elder Ronald A. Rasband of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles met with the Prime Minister of the Ivory Coast while in the country. They discussed the church's welfare, self-reliance programs, and spiritual blessings of the Abidjan Ivory Coast Temple. Members of the Tabernacle Choir are sharing their audition experiences as auditions just opened again this week. The process is 4 phases. During the past 5 cycles, about a quarter of those who applied became choir members. Learn more about these and...
Yeah, I did once upon a time audition to be part of the orchestra at Temple Square. I didn't make it through, by the way. So your humble host here, I guess, would be in the top tier of those 25% who did make it through. But that's a subject for another conversation. A couple of other thoughts here about the Syracuse Temple, because one of my favorite TikTokers out there, Ryan Josiah, lives right by the Syracuse Temple, as I recall here. He's going to give us a 3-minute opining, because he went, folks, this is our humble correspondence here on the Mormon News Roundup. He went to the open house and the dedication, I believe, the open house of it. And so let's see what Ryan has to say about this.
Well, I'm here at the Syracuse Temple, about to go through the open house. There's the temple out there. It's been maybe a year since I went through an open house at the Layton Temple. we'll see how this goes. Well, I just finished going through the Syracuse Temple open house. I've been through a few other temple open houses, and I've spent hundreds of hours in temples back when I was a believing member. This temple open house was very, very similar to all of the others. If you've seen one, you've seen them all as far as the newer temples go. There are very minor differences temple to temple as far as what flowers they use in the artwork in the windows or on the walls, or how much dark wood there is, type of thing. So if you've seen other temples, gone through their open houses, don't feel like you need to go through this one. But thoughts about this particular one, it's more interesting what they did not show than what they did show. We started off in the baptistry area. This is the first temple with 2 baptistries, one on each side of the bottom floor, and we only saw one of them, which would make sense. But then as you go upstairs to where the adults go through their own ceremonies, like the endowment, washing and anointing, they did not point out. They kind of rushed us past the area where you receive your new name in the little space between the walls. I'm not even positive exactly where it was, because they shoot us past it so quickly, just totally, no signs, no nothing. That's not mentioned. We saw just one of the endowment rooms. Most of the other rooms were closed. The doors were closed, and I don't know why, if it's an open house and most of the doors were closed. But in that endowment room, or the instruction room, is that what they call them? They, of course, have the veil blocked. You can't see it at all, and there's no explanation about the veil. You don't get to see the veil. They just gave this short little explanation about how they make covenants to obey God, and that you learn more about Jesus, and all this fluff that if you've been through the temple, it was kind of sort of true, but mostly not, because they left out the majority of what actually happens in that room. You have no idea otherwise that there are handshakes, that there are signs that you make, that the general public would have no idea what actually happens in that room. So That was all on the second floor. The upper floor is the sealing rooms and the initiatory, another area that they just shoot us right past. There was a sign in front of it, but there was no explanation offered as far as what the initiatory even is, what is the washing and anointing, and what goes on there. And so that was another interesting thing, that as if they wanted to make it look like they're being open about it, because hey, there was a sign in front of this room, but what happens in there was no one to answer questions. That's something that's lacking, is people available to honestly answer questions. I came with one of my kids, and I asked my kid what his first thought was, and his first thought was one word. What was it? Short. We were in there for maybe 20 minutes, probably not even 20 minutes, mostly just walking through. We would stop briefly for like 1 minute in each room, but yeah, there really wasn't enough time to be able to ask questions, and I think they do that on purpose. Another thing I found interesting was the artwork. There was quite a bit of artwork of Native Americans, including a few with Jesus. The very first recommend desk, I think it's the youth recommend desk, because it's on the side of the building with the baptistry, but right above the recommend desk is this picture of a painting of Jesus with 2 what look like Native American kids with what was that stone that they had on their necklace again? Turquoise. With turquoise in their necklaces, and Jesus and the 2 kids in the painting looked depressed. It's a rather interesting choice of a painting right when you walk in. Another thought I just had is when you ask LDS members or leaders the benefits of the temple for non-members, they say, well, it beautifies the community, and anyone can go on their beautiful grounds to spend time there and enjoy their grounds. Well, this is most of what they have, is just surrounding the temple. They have a lot of parking, and then they have this one space over by the street. So this is, I guess, the space that they're talking about, that you can spend some time in. There's a little bit of grass out front there by the street, but other than this one space with benches, there's just parking lot and teeny tiny strips of grass. So if they say anyone can spend time here and enjoy the beauty of the temple, like, not really. I mean, I wouldn't just come here just to sit on these benches, would you? Well, I'm here at the Syracuse Temple.
Thanks for bringing that to us, Ryan. Really appreciate his takes. We're going to get back to Ryan just a little bit later in this particular episode as well. As far as people being able to answer his questions during the open house, well, they don't even have questions when you're a member and you're going through the temple. There's no questions because there's no answers. There's no one to answer the questions because there's no answers to why all of this is in fact needed. I am always struck, especially from these POV videos, about how big the temple. These are massive structures. And how many millions of dollars went into the Syracuse Temple? Well, it depends on how big it is. We know that the temples are on average about $1,100 per square foot. This looks like a somewhat larger one. I'm guessing it's around 60,000 square feet. I don't have that right in front of me though. So that would make it a $50 million building. Absolutely massive. Let's not forget that there are several other temples that are within a short distance of the Syracuse Temple. Really appreciate Ryan bringing us that information here. And as Rebecca Biblioteca points out, folks, the Syracuse LDS Temple just was dedicated just this afternoon, but just in a couple of days, the cleaning assignments will begin for this temple because they are cleaned by members and not professionals. This is in the Clearfield, Utah stake. This is a official letter from church leaders to the members here. Clearfield, Utah stake has received cleaning assignments for the Syracuse Temple, which will begin on June 17th. We need 7 volunteers each night for the first assignment, which runs from 9:00 p.m. until midnight. These assignments will occur more frequently than ever before. We need people every single night. So these temples, as soon as they are constructed, not only do they need to be manned by people inside of the temple, some of whom work full-time for the church, apparently mostly for free, but they also need to have groundskeepers. They need to have people cleaning the temple. They are a massive drain on the time, treasure, and talents of the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Thanks for bringing that to us. Now, this is June. This is Gay Pride Month. I wish the very best to everybody out there for June. Hope you're doing very, very well here. But in Utah in particular, the Gay Pride Month is kind of done a little bit differently. I don't live in the Beehive State, but still, they turn it into something a little differently there. And it's kind of like a proclamation month instead of Pride Month. Have you seen the proclamation of the family banners and flags hanging around during Pride Month in June? There seem to be more and more of these each year. Yeah, good point, Rebecca. Let's see what's going on there in my home state of Utah.
It's June, and that means it's Pride Month. I'm going to be attending the parade in downtown Salt Lake next weekend. I've gone several times over the last couple of years, and it's really just an awesome experience. In Utah, it's interesting because some people choose, instead of Pride Month, to celebrate what they call Proclamation Month.
Right.
And this is referring to the proclamation to the family that the LDS Church puts out. A lot of people think this is canonized. It's not. It's a statement that the LDS Church has put out about the family, what makes up a family, marriage between one man and one woman. You'll see these flags hanging in people's yards, off their porches, on their garages during the month of June. Proclamation Month. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, that's what absolutely you will see these the family proclamation, which was put forth by the church, I believe, in 1995 or 1996 as a result of the Hawaii same-sex marriage legislation. The church wanted to have standing in that particular state, so put that together. Rebecca is right that it has not been canonized. However, portions of it are now found in the General Handbook of Instruction, which is why members revere it as quasi-scripture. In fact, Dallin Oaks himself has said that it was a revelation. But, you are going to see this in Pride Month. We covered this last year where I talked about how there's lots of different people, including people that I knew back when I was in Utah, that put out the proclamation into their yards, and it creates a very divisive atmosphere. There's no doubt about that. A couple of other takes here from the Pride Month here that I'm going to bring to you here is from one of my favorite ex-Mormon channels out there, and this is Midlife Exmo. She's going to talk about Pride Month from her perspective as well.
It's the first part of June. It is not only Pride Month, but it's halfway between Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I know there are a lot of parents out there that have a hard time this time of year because they've lost relationships with their kids. I know this can't be easy. I don't know of any parent who holds this infant in their arms and thinks, wow, I can't wait for the day when they cut me out of their life. And yet it happens all the time. I'm on both sides. I have recently had to cut my parents out of my life. And I've also been the type of mom that if I had continued down a certain path, I most definitely would have lost my only child. I know that a lot of parents feel like they're the victims in this when a child cuts them out of their life. And they ask that hypothetical question, what did I do to deserve this? Well, let's change the purpose of that question. What did I do to deserve this? It needs to require some kind of self-reflection, because parents, as much as you've been told that you are the authority figure, that you're the one to raise this child, that you know better, is it really true? I mean, think of the adults in your life. Do you think that all of the adults that you know or know of would make great parents? Sometimes they just don't have the tools. They're not equipped to be the kind of parents that they need to be. When children cut you out of their lives, there's a reason for it. And it's most likely because you're not meeting their emotional needs. And adult children may not necessarily need you to meet their physical needs any longer. But if you don't meet their emotional needs, they think they need to go find someone else and somewhere else that will fulfill those needs. When your kids are children at home and you say to yourself, I'm meeting all of their needs, you might think, well, I'm putting food on the table and a roof over their head and clothes on their back. I am meeting their needs. That's true. You're meeting their basic, fundamental physiological needs, the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. You're helping them survive. But are you really helping them to thrive? Are you providing the emotional safety that these kids need? Or are you the type of person that causes them to walk on eggshells when they're around you because they don't want to upset you? And do you provide them with the love and belonging that they crave? Humans, all humans want to feel loved. They want to feel like they belong. And if they can't find that with you, they're going to have to go find it with someone else. When my 16-year-old came out as queer a couple of years ago, it was hard for me as a mom. I thought I had all of the answers. I thought that because I was the parent, I couldn't go wrong. And that my child's gender identity and sexuality were somehow in my control. And because of that, we butt heads for a really long time. I was so insistent that I was right and they were wrong. And of course, this child is not going to feel like they're loved and respected. They don't feel as though I have their best interests at heart. Yes, I'm providing that basic level of Maslow's hierarchy, but I'm not providing the emotional safety. I'm not providing the love and belonging for this child. Had I continued on that path, I have no doubt that my child would have chosen to leave me. When they were old enough, they would have said, you know what? I'm going to go live with dad. I'm going to go live with friends. I can't be with you because you're not a safe person for me. So as a parent, I had to look inward and I had to ask myself, what am I doing to deserve the way that my child feels for me? And what can I do to change? I had no control over my child. So parents, when you ask yourself, what did I do to deserve this? Don't let that be a rhetorical question. Let it be a legitimate question. And then when you find that answer, make those changes you need to make so your kids feel safe enough to let you back into their lives.
There's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of strain that comes, especially with the gay issues in the church whenever there's gay family members. In my experience, nothing leads to more separation or more heartache than these particular issues. And I'm going to be releasing more videos about Midlife Exmo here coming up. She is one of my favorite content creators. She has her own podcast out there that's called A Never Mormon and a Mormon Get Together. It's something like that. I'm sorry if I don't have the exact verbiage, but yeah, she's right. I mean, this all comes to life here, really comes to the forefront here in June in particular, because this is a Gay Pride Month and these issues really start where people really divide themselves up. Religion is inherently divisive. It's not unifying because there are certain people who have God's chosen graces and are friends with imaginary best friends. And then there's other people who are born evil. At least that's according to Mormon doctrine, right? Being gay is considered a sin. So more thoughts here on gay pride stuff here. This is what I really found from trolling through and scrolling through Twitter. People are posting here in celebration of Biblical Marriage Month, 3 kids, almost 9 years. It's not enough for these people to be secure in themselves. They have to project it out to other people. I like the response here. Biblical marriage. So you bought her for 50 shekels? I think that's pretty funny here. More gay pride takes as well. In LDS theology, gender is sacred and eternal when used to enforce roles and preserve male authority. Gender is only relevant here when it comes to a man's place in the hierarchy. The question of female divinity is one that the leaders refuse to ask or answer. Organized religion made by men for men. I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. Yes, we're going to see throughout, at least when I was living in Utah, we're going to see the fights back and forth between people who want to affirm the identity of LGBTQ persons and those who want to say that it is against God's sacred plan. Please follow the Mormon News Roundup while you're at it. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on X. I'd be very grateful if you left a thumbs up and a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this. Now, the Mormon Church here is going after the Amish. Yes, you heard that right. I couldn't believe this when Rebecca brought it to my attention. Again, here's an official memo that is sent out here to the Hiram, Ohio stake this past week. The Columbus, Ohio mission sent a letter to all of the Amish families within the mission boundaries. This is unprecedented. Never heard of anything like this. The mission has requested that we join them this fast Sunday in praying that they will be receptive to the gospel message. We wanted to make you aware of this opportunity. I've never heard of anything like this, of sending out hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of letters unsolicited to people. This is your tithing dollars at work here. I couldn't believe when I heard that.
Are the LDS missionaries trying to convert the Amish? This is a strange post that I came across. It seems to be a letter from the Hiram, Ohio stake regarding the Columbus, Ohio mission that sent a letter to all of the Amish families within the mission boundaries. Not sure how they did that or got their addresses. The mission has requested that we, in the stake, join this fast Sunday in praying that they will be receptive to the gospel message, and they're just making everyone in the stake aware of this opportunity. Now, I don't know. Is this a real letter? This seems really strange to me. I've never heard of a mission mailing out mailers. I'd like to see exactly what those said, inviting the Amish perhaps to have the missionaries over, and then, letting the stake know that we need to fast and pray so that the Amish will be receptive. This seems very odd. Let me know if you think this is a real letter and what you think about inviting the Amish.
That's a very interesting question. A couple of thoughts here about mailing out letters to the Amish. First of all, this was confirmed later to be absolutely genuine. So what we're asking the Amish to do is replace one set of fables for another. Instead of replacing one set of fables for another, let's replace one set of fables with reality. Number 3, part of my mission, I served in the Washington, D.C. South mission when I was a missionary. However, our mission actually went all the way up into Pennsylvania, and I spent time among the Mennonites and among the Amish, and door-to-door tracted among this particular demographic. I can tell you that they are incredibly nice people, and they virtually let you in 100% of the time, or at least they'll talk to you for hours on end. They are in absolutely no rush. I was astonished at how simple their lives were and how unconcerned they were with the Mormon message. They couldn't care less about it. They weren't curious about it. It didn't affect them whatsoever. The proselytization of the Amish will be one of the most spectacular wastes of time in all of. If these Mormon missionaries are going to the Amish, they're going to see their efforts be incredibly futile. I can tell you that from personal experience. And I don't think that things have changed since the time it was that I was a missionary. Now, of course, one of the biggest articles that we have this week always is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. This still dominates. I have 2 takes here from The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on what's going on with these scandalous gals.
I'm watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives with my wife, and let me tell you what the secret is. They don't love them. They don't know them. I ain't heard nothing about no Latter-day Saint. They don't even go to church. Ain't nobody came home from church in all this second season. They just cussing and fussing and starting businesses. Do you love them? Do you care about them? This show should just be called Utah People Fussing. Because y'all don't go to church. Y'all had a Saint and Sinners party. Ain't supposed to be no sinners up in there. Y'all ain't no Michael B. Jordans and no Ryan Coogler's. Okay? Well, Joseph Smith ain't had nothing to do with this. Where is the shirt and tie and the bikes? Where is the stuff? Because y'all got the cussing and the fussing and the licking and the sticking and the children, but y'all ain't got no church services. Y'all ain't got no
That's the Utah people cussing and fussing. I think that's a pretty solid sum up of the secret lives of Mormon wives. Yeah. Where are the people going to church? When you curate or you take a look at Taylor Frankie Paul's massive amount of TikToks and Instagrams, she has personally released 12 or 1,300 TikToks and Instagrams. None of them really show her going to church. They supposedly dress up once in a while for it, but yeah, that's a good point here. I think that's a very solid take. Where is Joseph Smith? Where are the missionaries on bikes? Where are the white t-shirts and the ties? This isn't what people expect. And I guess when it comes to reality TV, people want to watch things that are unexpected. No doubt about that. Now, here is a quick perspective from, this is my last Secret Lives of Mormon Wives for this week. An active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints gives a perspective on the Secret Lives, and that she is mad that they are not only are they cussing and fussing and Mormons behaving badly, but she's mad that they're putting out false doctrine. I didn't know that they even knew what false doctrine was. So let's give you this one too.
Okay, I am watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Why do you have to have such a look of disdain on your face? My gosh.
I'm on episode 9, and I am kind of annoyed because they talk about things in the church, and they obviously have no idea what they're talking about.
Why is that so obvious?
Okay. Because, like, they're saying that because I was sealed to this man, if I don't break off the sealing after this life, I'll be with him. That is incorrect, actually.
Really?
You get a say in heaven if you actually want to be with that man or not.
This is religious nonsense. People pretending to know things that they can't possibly know. And of course, she cannot demonstrate. Just mere bald-faced assertions and replacing faith with facts.
Okay, so you're not stuck with him, even if you don't break your sealing. Okay? Second off, what's her name? I can't think of her name right now. But
you watch 9 episodes of this and you can't remember their names?
One of them said, my ex-husband took his records out of the church or whatever, and because of that, she's not sealed to her children anymore. That is also false. You are still sealed to your children.
Oh, glad to have this fact checker coming in to make sure things are on the up and up here.
God is not going to punish you for something that your ex did.
Can you prove that? Is there any evidence for any of this rambling nonsense?
For example, I am divorced. I am remarried.
Okay.
I am in the middle of getting a temple divorce with my ex. But I will still be sealed to my daughters. Okay? I'm not going to be punished for getting out of a toxic relationship. Okay? And my husband now, we plan to get sealed in the temple. And then our daughter will be sealed to us. God's not going to punish you for someone else's sins. And for
that's not what. Have you ever even read the Old Testament? God says that He will rain blood and horror on the 3rd, 4th, 5th generations, and He fulfills that all the time. I guess you need to go back and read the Old Testament, honey.
Something else someone did to you, okay? And
in Moroni chapter 9, verse 9, it says that women lost their chastity because they were violated. That's called being punished for something that you didn't do. It says that they lost that which was supposedly most precious and dear to them, literally being punished for something someone else did.
And you do get a say in heaven. It's not like you're stuck with this person that you hate or that you don't like or love. You're not stuck.
Yeah, so the problem is if you get into heaven and realize that you don't love, this is according to Mormon theology, if you get into heaven and realize you don't love your personal partner. Well, you don't go to the highest degree of heaven unless you're sealed to somebody. So what? You're going to end up in the celestial kingdom. You won't even, and therefore you won't be with your families. Do you even understand what it is that you believe? You sanctimonious.
You will still get a choice up in heaven. That's
Yeah,
all.
the choice in heaven is remain sealed or you go to the celestial kingdom, because you cannot be saved alone.
That's all I have to say. Okay.
Well, what I wish you had said was absolutely nothing. You want to come in here and fact check the secret lives of Mormon wives, and I don't really even think that you have the slightest clue about what it is that you're talking. You want to see cognitive dissonance on full display, somebody who doesn't understand the psychopathic God of Abraham in the Old Testament, who repeatedly visited the sins of the parents on the children. What we have here is replacing knowledge about the afterlife with just her mere speculations. This is a perfect microcosm of the delusion of religion on full display. Changing gears, Jiminy Cricket. Mormon crickets are back on Idaho roads. This happens pretty much every summer. The so-called Mormon crickets, they are alive and well.
No need to call the SWAT team, but heads up, drivers in some parts of Idaho are dealing with swarms of Mormon crickets covering roadways. AAA Idaho is warning drivers that thousands of the insects can get onto roads, creating slippery and sometimes dangerous driving conditions. The seasonal phenomenon has become increasingly common in recent weeks. If you run into a swarm, AAA recommends slowing down, avoiding sharp turns, and making sure your wipers and washer fluids are working properly.
Now, if for some reason, if any of these clips, by the way, do not appear and get copyright struck in the YouTube episodes, because we release all of these on YouTube, you can watch the full unedited version of these without ads if you go onto our Patreon site, because sometimes some of these later on get taken down from copyrights. Now, a couple of other quick news articles here. Latter-day Saints turn to yoga for physical and spiritual benefits. Let's see what's going on.
Yoga meditation is really primarily a transcendental form of meditation. So relax the body, still the body, calm the mind.
Many Mormons are practicing yoga for not only the physical benefits, but also the spiritual, and finding a greater connection between their faith and the ancient practice of yoga.
I find the teachings of Jesus more consistent with the yoga tradition than any other Eastern tradition, period. To me,
Why is that at all desirable?
they just fit very harmoniously. Feel the skin boundary, feel the life within the body.
McLemore, a former Latter-day Saint Air Force and hospice chaplain, began practicing yoga after suffering a spinal injury. The practice and philosophies helped him both physically and mentally, where his own religion had failed him.
Lots of options here.
An evening yoga class at Sri Sri Radha Krishna Temple in the heart of Mormon country is an example of the embrace of yoga and meditation among members of the faith.
I close my eyes in Shavasana, and what I do is I picture God in my presence and all of the world just kind of melting away. And so I can just zero in, focus on my spirituality and what He has to say to me.
The majority of people, at least here in Utah County, are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I wanted to share what I was learning with them.
Leanne Tolley's yoga practice also began with an injury, one that left her unable to do her typical gym workouts.
And squat down for Balasana squat.
Yoga helped her recover from the injury and to overcome her exercise addiction. It has also helped her to understand that the mind and body are connected.
Sometimes we focus so much on spirit good and body bad, and our job is to overcome the body and get to a place where we are these spiritually enlightened beings, that the body doesn't even matter anymore. That is actually just the opposite. Yoga teaches us mind, body, spirit connected. That really is, in my perception, what God is.
Tolley doesn't practice every element or philosophy of yoga, but instead adds what helps to her own faith practice. She calls it Leanne Yoga.
It hurts my heart when people think, or when people feel like, oh, you can't do yoga and you can't do the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What I've learned from yoga only fortifies, enhances, and deepens my personal faith.
These takes, folks, I'm sorry. You probably think I'm an absolute disrespectful individual. Where are these takes coming from? Because the purposes of yoga are completely antithetical to the values of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The spiritual goals of yoga here, I have this from Google, include achieving self-realization or understanding one's true nature beyond the ego and physical form. These are not Latter-day Saint concepts. It also seeks the liberation, the moksha, from the cycle of suffering and rebirth. Joseph Smith said that reincarnation in particular is the doctrine of devils. So that doesn't line up. It also talks about uniting the individual soul with the universal consciousness, Brahman. There's in Latter-day Saint theology, there is no universal soul, and Brahman is a false god. Through disciplined practice, yoga fosters inner peace, detachment from worldly distractions, and a deep sense of consciousness to all life. These are totally in opposition to Mormon ideals and Mormon goals. So she says, well, it hurts my feelings. Well, this is the problem. When I grew up, nobody was doing yoga because it was considered false doctrine. But I'm glad that some people have found a way to reconcile yoga with their Latter-day Saint faith. That's very interesting stuff here. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. A few other articles here. This is the new podcast here from Mormon Land, which I actually got a chance to listen to for the first time this week. I really like it. I'm going to be listening to it more. It's called Mormon Land X, Mormons in the Media, a new podcast here. They're going to talk about a couple of different items here, including the secret lives of Mormon wives. Let's just play a quick clip of this where they talk about maternity garments. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of this Salt Lake Tribune official podcast. I think that they launched this because of the secret lives of Mormon wives, and also because, let's be honest, Peggy Fletcher Stack is a little older and maybe not as hip to these pop culture things and TikToks and garment girlies and all the rest of this. Let's play about 1 minute of this here and give you a taste of it.
And you know this, what's the number one question that people want to ask about? Garments. So they were talking about wearing garments, and Jen said that up until she got pregnant, she wore her garments. And I was just thinking, are there pregnancy garments?
Yeah.
What? Oh, there are.
Maternity garments are the most comfortable ones. I don't understand. Lots of people don't like them. The maternity ones are okay. And it came up. Well, okay. I'll answer your question first. So yes, garments in general, and they're being talked about a lot right now, which is really weird because the church has come out with new ones that are like tank top style. And so I actually have a podcast plan. I know. I cannot wait to slut it up in my tank tops this summer or whenever I get them. I cannot wait, Nicole. I can't wait. But it's like all these, anyway, certain people have these garments. They're like rolling them out in certain countries and like very hot countries. And so eventually we'll get them in the States. We don't have them yet. I am like Googling it every day. I have friends, like multiple group texts where we're like, are we getting them yet? Like, what's the status? When can we be free from wearing sleeves all the time?
So this is when can we slut it up? Whoa, this isn't your grandma's Salt Lake Tribune podcast here. I'm looking forward to listening to more of this particular program. I've got it on my to-do list here. But yes, they're talking about how these new Mormon garments are absolutely hot. They are absolutely lit out there. I have my slides slightly out of order, so I do apologize for that. Here is a couple last takes here. We're trying to get you out of here in an hour. Some ex-Mormons who are in the news. This is brought to us by Generally Unquotable. And we're going to hear from Expo Valkyrie and also from Ryan Josiah. They made the actual news here. Let's see what Megan's got going on. Let's see what Megan's got going on over here at Generally Unquotable.
We're talking about two ex-Mormon creators who got a little news spotlight in Utah. They are Ryan Josiah and Everyday Valkyrie. And here they are on the news.
June is Pride Month.
So staying on this topic, we're going to go out to Darian, who's in Harriman this morning. What you up to, Darian?
Good morning, guys. Well, right now I am here with Sarah and Ryan, and they're actually two content creators who also do a lot of work for the LGBTQ plus community. First, I'm going to come to you. How can people get involved in Pride this week? What are some activities that you guys have upcoming?
So there is the interfaith worship that takes place on Thursday night. Friday night, there is a youth dance for youth age 14 to 20. And then Saturday morning, there is a march and a rally from the Capitol. And then, of course, the Pride Festival starts at Saturday. And then we have the parade on Sunday morning, followed by the festival that evening.
Sounds like there's lots of things for people to get involved in if that's what they decide to do. Coming over here to you, why is Pride something that you are involved in, and what are you looking forward to this week?
I have been involved on social media. I've been rather outspoken on my platform, and so I was invited to join this group as an outspoken ally of sorts, and I kind of capitalized on my platform in order to help them raise funds to be able to be a part of Utah Pride. And so I'm really excited to be able to be in the parade with the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network and then join their booth as much much as I am physically possible in this hot summer heat. I'm really excited.
If people want to learn more about Pride events or get involved somehow, what's the best way for them to do that?
Of course, the best way is to go to Utah Pride, and they have their website. They've got all the information there, so everybody can go check out their website to get all the details.
Thanks so much for sharing. We'll send it back to you guys.
Make sure to check them out on TikTok, where they share various thoughts about Mormonism.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't watched very much of Valkyrie, but I have had Ryan Josiah on the program a number of times. Sorry if my slides were slightly out of order there, but yes, Utah Pride, big time news articles. Okay, what about Lori Vallow here? Lori Vallow's trial for her fourth killing of her fourth husband, unaliving, I guess I should say. I don't want to get this to get struck here. Her opening statement, the whole truth, so help me, Lori. This is from the Profiling Evil podcast. Some really nutty stuff out here. The problem here is that Lori Daybell was taken out of courtroom after accusing the judge of yelling at her in her murder conspiracy trial. My gosh, look, this is the statement here. This is from the judge here. If you're going to introduce how you, meaning Lori, have a great character and a good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence prosecutors can bring in to rebut that character, which could include being convicted of 4 murders. That's a good point here. And here is the delusional statement that one of my listeners, longtime listeners out there, sent to me, that we're just going to bring to you about Lori and her absolutely barking mad delusions.
What motivation did I have? What malice have I ever shown to anyone? What benefit would I gain? I am a person who loves all people and has no malice towards anyone, not even the prosecutors who wrongfully try to convict me.
Wait, whoa, let's hear that one more time.
What motivation did I have? What malice have I ever shown to anyone? What benefit would I gain? I am a person who loves all people and has no malice towards anyone, not even the prosecutors who wrongfully try to convict me.
Wait, you have no malice towards anyone, just including the 4 people who you've been associated with absolutely unaliving. You want to talk about this spiritual spin or sinister strategy? This is from a couple of the comments. She is guilty as hell. Let's hope this fiasco is over so she can disappear into the portal with Chad. And this is another person. What malice have I ever shown against anyone? What? This woman is absolutely deranged and diabolical. Prosecution opening was just perfect. This world can do without you spreading your love. It kills people. Good point. The absolutely doomsday mom is out there spreading absolute nonsense. And here is our final article here. Mormon church runs afoul of Coconut Creek codes, asking for mercy on more than $9,000 fines. The Mormon church made a big boo-boo here, and this is what happened. This is in Coconut Creek, Florida last year. The Coconut Creek church wanted parking lot upgrades. The only problem, they didn't follow the rules by pulling the proper permits. Oops. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on Lyons Road asked city officials for forgiveness of sorts by reducing the $9,000 in fines plus the administrative fee that it racked up according to the city documents. They will take a look at this issue, but yes, the Mormon church has run afoul of city codes and is asking for mercy for the $9,000 back. You know, if I think I would ask the Mormon church for some of my tithing back and a little bit of mercy on that, do you think that they would say yes? I don't think so. I find that to be a highly ironic statement here. Coming up on this week, of course, here on the Mormon News Roundup, we have the Mormon Movie Reviews, which takes place every Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow, I will release the top 10 most important LDS films of all time. I'm really proud of this particular episode. And the top 10 films, well, what do you think the top 10 films of all time is? Well, according to what I put in, the top 10 films are Joseph Smith, Prophet of the Restoration, Legacy, Man's Search for Happiness, The First Vision, God's Army, God Makers, The Testaments of One Fold, One Shepherd, Meet the Mormons, the Book of Mormon musical, and the Mormon Temple Endowment film. That is what I consider to be the top 10 most important films of all time, even though technically the Book of Mormon musical is a musical. But anyway, you will receive new content here on the Mormon News Roundup absolutely every single day at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I drop a new video and I drop new shorts twice a day at midnight and at noon. I would like to thank those who support this particular podcast over on our Patreon site. If you feel like making a donation over there, I would be grateful for that. We have Scab, RMW, David, Blaine, Brent, and Sophronia. Especially thanks to Sophronia for supporting this podcast. And on our YouTube memberships, those groupies out there, we have Emmerich Starla, Jeffrey, Garrick, Lee Mortensen. I felt a tiny bit rushed on today's episode, but this is all the time that I have to give to you this week for the Mormon News Roundup. I am your humble host, D-Base. That is talent on loan from Kolob. I want to thank you so much for ruminating with me on the great and spacious Beehive. I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C., the crossroads of the East, where the truth runs free. If you could hit the like, hit the subscription before you go, I would be very grateful for that. And let's remember that no unhallowed hand can stop the Mormon News Roundup from progressing.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.